So the long-awaited Five Nights at Freddy's movie is finally out, and it's getting pretty mixed reviews.
All the flaws and missteps it has, the fan service, Easter eggs and stuff will just make it go such a long way that it'll make you happy.
All I can hope is that maybe the sequel to Five Nights at Freddy's will be the one that brings me on board.
I think that in general, it's a really fun time at the movies.
And I get it, that could be very fun for fans, but just judging the movie as it is, it's about as generic as it gets.
The main consensus seems to be that the movie is flawed, but fans of the franchise will get the most enjoyment out of it. And it's interesting because the same thing happened with other recent video game adaptations like the Mario movie, Sonic, and 2021's Mortal Kombat. Personally, I'm a fan of all of these gaming franchises, so each time I was able to see the reviews from both sides. Although I have expressed my issues with the Mario movie, I still saw it multiple times in theaters because of how faithful it was to the source material and the overwhelming amount of fan service. And now I'm running with that same feeling for this movie. I've never played the Freddys games, but have read up on a lot of the lore, so I was still familiar with the characters and storylines going in. And from what I saw, the movie does seem pretty faithful. The costume designs for the animatronics are great, the production design for the pizzeria matches the game's setting, and many characters and storylines are translated pretty accurately to their on-screen counterparts. I also really love that intro with the pixel art. Coupled with the music, that credit sequence was a great way to start the film. However, when they kept marketing this movie as being for the fans, they might have gone too far with it. And I think the problem starts with the main protagonist, Mike, who gets almost too much screen time and development. Like most horror movie characters, he has a tragic backstory and is trying to reconcile with it, but it takes a lot of screen time away from the story of the animatronics. The problem then is that a lot of the game's lore either gets exposition dumped by the policewoman character Vanessa, or just not explained at all. The biggest example I can think of is that we never really get to know the motivation behind the main villain. For people like me, I can just think back to what I know from the games and fill those holes. But for general audiences who can't, the ending will probably feel a little jarring. That's kind of why I can't just give this movie a strong recommendation to non-fans, because these are issues that don't make this a proper standalone experience. There's even a new character that appears halfway through the movie for like 2 scenes who never gets an explanation for who they are. Again, I know who this character was, so I didn't care that they didn't explain it, but non-fans are kept in the dark. It's an interesting issue because while I think studios are realizing that more fan service and faithful storytelling for video game movies does guarantee a better box office, this may be the first of many that caters to the fans too much. That to say, another cool byproduct of this is the acknowledgement of the series' online history. And yes, I'm talking about those YouTuber cameos. It's so cool that some of the online creators who helped make this franchise so popular for years are represented in its big screen debut. It's a nice notion that shows that the filmmakers have that extra strong connection to the fan base. However, because that fan base generally skews younger, we did lose out on getting that R rating, which I think the film desperately needed. I know there's no blood shown in the games, but it's a shame that a lot of the kills are done off screen, leading to many cut to blacks rather than creative deaths that would have made the whole thing more fun to watch. Overall, I will say, although this movie has its faults, I think it did pretty well at setting up the cinematic world of Five Nights at Freddy's. To me, it was a really fun watch and an interesting addition to Blumhouse's collection of horror classics. The games have such an intriguing story that I can't help but be excited at what the franchise has in store for us in a sequel. So even though the reviews aren't good, if you're a horror fan, I'd still say to give this movie a try, just so we can keep delving into this world and hopefully by the end of the planned trilogy, get a FNAF movie all audiences and the creators deserve.